So my name is Sarah. I am Noah's aunt, and I am a wildlife biologist. So I work for the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and right now I work on an Air Force base, essentially managing animals on that base, making sure that the animals are not colliding with airplanes, which can be very dangerous. So I am from Las Vegas, Nevada. Like I said, I'm a wildlife biologist, although my dream job, since it's career day, my dream job is being a marine biologist. I want to work with sharks. Oh, and this is a prairie dog. Does anyone know what a prairie dog is? Yeah? The little ground squirrels? Isn't he cute?
Yeah.
This one is a white-tailed prairie dog. There's white-tailed and black-tailed prairie dogs that we work on. So, like I said, I'm from here, Nevada. Does anyone know what the word... Yeah, so I was saying, I want to be a marine biologist, and I want to study sharks. That is my dream job. That's what I want to be when I grow up. So, does anyone know what the word biology means? What does it mean? Here.
Quiet. Like to study about something.
Yeah, it's really close. Do you have anything else?
So if you interested or something, you kind of figure it out on laptops and stuff.
Yeah, actually that's really close. So the word bios is a Greek word, and in Greek it means life. And ology comes from the Greek word logos, which means to study something, to learn something. So being a biologist means being someone who studies all of the living beings on our planet. So I am also a wildland firefighter. So when there's a forest fire in the wilderness in California or Colorado, there's people who go out to fight those forest fires. I have a bachelor's in environmental science and biological conservation and a minor in animal behavior. So I studied how animals' brains worked, essentially.
Lots of college.
Yeah.
So they're hearing.
So Noah mentioned that I was an animal doctor. When I was younger, they're called veterinarians. My dream job was to be an animal doctor. I wanted to be the person you go to when your dog is sick. That was my dream job. As I got older, I realized that I didn't want to be in an office. I didn't want to be in a lab. I wanted to be outside, working with animals in nature, being around nature. This is a picture of us when we were actually running through a field collecting butterflies. So it's definitely one of the more fun things we do, but I'll talk a little bit about the butterfly tagging later in the presentation. So in high school, just some of the classes I took, you guys won't have to worry about this for too long, but environmental science, biology, chemistry, psychology, which is how the brain works, and statistics. In college, has anyone ever heard of the Galapagos Islands?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you know about the Galapagos?
I heard that they're really cool.
They are really, really cool. And they're really famous in the world of biology because they have a lot of really unique species that are found nowhere else on Earth. Species, that's a great question. Species essentially means a whole family of one animal. So one kind of animal. So for example, a dog is a species of animal. And then within that species you have different breeds of dogs. So a species refers to a whole group of the same kind of animal. So that's a really good question though. So I went and studied in the Galapagos Islands for a few weeks, a couple months, and that is what really told me that I want to do marine biology. I just was obsessed with the ocean, being in the water. I swam with sharks. It was the best time of my life. And just doing things to get more involved, things that you guys can do right now, how old you are, you can do these tomorrow if you wanted to just get more involved in animals and wildlife. You can, join the Boy and Girl Scouts, get better with your outdoor skills, just being outside, being in nature, volunteer at zoos and aquariums and animal shelters, get your parents to donate if you can, helping out, even if it's just people's pets, dogs and cats, it means a huge amount. And there's all kinds of clubs you guys will find in school, all kinds of outdoors clubs and animal-related things. Yeah?
I have
porcupine? Wow, that's really cool. I'm jealous.
His name is Spike.
Spiky? Yeah.
My sister wanted a hedgehog.
Hedgehogs are so cute. Porcupines, hedgehogs, one of my favorite animals. They're adorable. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have heard of PetSmart, but that was my first job. I worked at the pet hotel and I was taking care of people's dogs and cats. And then after that, I worked for the Nevada Department of Wildlife, and essentially in that job, we swam around in lakes and we counted fish and we wrote down, you know, we had all these different numbers of fish for different species in the lake.
We heard that.
Yeah. And that was really fun. So that's kind of where I learned to do outside work and to work in nature. And then after that, I worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Colorado. And in that job, I got used to what we call surveying, which is essentially going around and counting species of animals. So counting how many animals are in a given area in one species. So we did surveys during the day and at night, which was really spooky, really scary. We would drive around all night with flashlights and count different kinds of animals like ferrets and prairie dogs and bison and all kinds of stuff. In that job, that's where I did my wildland firefighting, and we did also a lot of wildlife rescues and emergency relocations, which essentially happened if an animal is injured or hurt or stuck somewhere. We would have to go rescue that animal, get it any medical help it needs, and relocate it to a new place where it was safer. Yes, yes. I was like, yeah. You got a dog? Bella.
That's my name.
Aww. So these are some of the pictures from when I worked with Fish and Wildlife Service. This is a prairie rattlesnake, and they are very dangerous to people. So whenever they get in spots where they're too close to people and they're posing a danger, we have to move them safely to a new spot where they can be safe. They can bite people if you get too close to them, and that's why it's our job partially to go in and move those animals to where there's not going to be a conflict between them and a person. Also, these are some of our surveys. We surveyed for, this is called a Wyoming toad, so we did toad and frog surveys. This is a little mouse in this bag. It's hard to see, but we did jumping mouse surveys. And this is just before I let this little guy go, but very, very cute. This one's my favorite. And this is a ferret. It is a wild ferret. It's called a black-footed ferret, and they're very endangered. There's only a few hundred of them left in the wild, so part of what Fish and Wildlife does, they run a breeding program where they breed them and release them into the wild. This is our butterfly tagging surveys. So the picture where you saw us running through the field with the net and we're frolicking in a field of grass, we were looking for monarch butterflies. And this is a very, very, very tiny sticker that we place on their wings. That way we can track wherever they go throughout the whole country. Yeah.
You guys ever find like
Squirrels? Oh, skulls. She's asking about skulls. So at the end of the presentation, I have a couple skulls and a horn, and we're gonna, my beautiful assistant is going to show each and every one of you up close these skulls. We're not gonna touch them because they're very fragile, but they're super cool skulls, and I have a lot more where those came from.
Are they real?
Yeah, they're real, and they're skulls that I found during my job outside. Are they unicorns? So I'll explain what each species is when we pass them, but there's 3 different species there. Someone else. Yeah. It's like someone under here.
I like snakes, but not poisonous snakes.
Uh-huh.
I like snakes that are poisonous. Other than that,
So I love snakes. Snakes are one of my favorite animals, and I especially like the venomous snakes because I think they're really misunderstood and people are very scared of them. So I think it's important that everyone understands snakes because there's a lot of unwarranted dislike of snakes. You should be cautious of them, but there's no need to hate them. And so I feel like I feel bad for snakes. So I like them. I love them. Yeah. And then this is actually me releasing this ferret that you see here. They live in burrows underground. So I'm releasing this guy back into his home, and he went on and lived happily ever after.
Is that here in Nevada?
So this was all in Colorado. Yeah, this is in Denver.
Are those different ferrets that are like out in the wild, or different than ferrets that you would get at a pet store?
Yeah, so I didn't even know about them before I got this job, but black-footed ferrets are a wild species of ferret that are specifically critically endangered in the country. So there's, I think, off the top of my head, I think there's a couple hundred left in the wild. So part of what the wildlife refuge I worked at, Rocky Mountain Arsenal, they ran a breeding program and a release program. So we would breed them and then release them back into the wild.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and the purpose of our nighttime surveys, and you'll see pictures of that. We go around at night with flashlights, and that is so that we can catch ferrets. We give them vaccinations. We chip them just like you chip a dog with a pit tag. We chip them with the same tag so that we can track them and monitor their health and all kinds of things. So the ferrets are very, very highly managed. So this is a baby American bison, and they get very, very big. They weigh 500 to 1,000 pounds, but when they're babies, this guy is probably about 30 pounds right now, and he's probably the size of a small dog. Yeah, so a lot of what we did as well is banding and releasing birds. We would band them so that put little metal bands around their legs so that we can track wherever they go throughout the whole country. So this is a yellow-headed blackbird that we banded and released. This is a mourning dove that we banded and released. And this is a baby bison that had gotten separated from his mom, and he was all alone and starving and very thirsty. So we had to go in, rescue him, and we released him back to the herd, and we watched him and his mom like run towards each other like it was a movie. It was very, very cute.
That's so rewarding.
Yeah, so that was fun. Yeah. So these are the nighttime surveys that we do, where we look for black-footed ferrets. When we catch them in these little cage traps, we will vaccinate them, we will chip them so that we can track them. We don't handle them with our bare hands for a couple reasons. They can bite if they're upset, which it's not going to put you in danger, but it hurts a lot. Take it from me. And we also don't handle them because they carry a lot of disease. And handling them not only puts us at risk for disease, but it puts the animal at risk of diseases you might give the animal. You're gross too. You and the animal are gross. And we don't want to transmit any of those germs between the two. So we use gloves, and when we catch them, we'll chip them, we will vaccinate them so that they don't get sick, and we will mark them with a little animal safe dye. It's actually a dye, so we dye their fur, so that way if we catch them again, we'll know that that individual has already been caught. Yeah, what? This is a bison. This is a fully grown adult bison at night. So that little orange fluffy guy you saw, this is what they look like when they grow up.
Are they dangerous?
So they are vegetarians. They don't eat meat. They don't hunt people for meat, but they are very territorial, very big, and very moody. So in terms of, yeah, they are dangerous because in a case like the bisons, they're territorial, they're big, and they do get scared and spooked easily. So they're still dangerous just because they're not hunting you for food. They still can really and have hurt people who get too close to them because they're defending their family or their babies. So definitely have to be very careful around bison. Anytime you're in a national park and you see bison, you have to stay very far away from them.
But it looks like you're a little bit close.
In that picture, I was in a truck, which is definitely the best form of protection you can get around bison. You definitely don't want to be around them on foot at all. So these pictures are of my firefighting.
Bison's fast.
They are very fast. Bison can run up to 45 miles an hour, which is about twice as fast than you or I can run. So outrunning them definitely will work. Yeah.
I'm fast though.
I don't know if you're faster than a bison though. They're pretty scary. Yes, I am. So this is some of the stuff we did with burning. A lot of what wildland firefighters do is they set fires on purpose. Very, very small fires that control the amount of vegetation that grows, and it manages the ecosystem so that animals can use it in a better way. When too much vegetation grows, it's actually bad for the animals in a lot of ways. So we have to manage the amount of vegetation that grows, and by doing that, we purposely set very small, very controlled fires that we can easily put out right afterwards. So that's a lot of what wildlife firefighting is. It's not only going and fighting fires that start accidentally, but it's purposely starting smaller fires in order to help the animals, but also avoid larger fires starting. When you start smaller fires, occasionally it avoids big giant wildfires from breaking out. So there's a few reasons why we do that. So in my current job, I work at an Air Force base. This is the picture of the Air Force base with all our planes. And what I do is I make sure that all of the animals on the base do not interfere with the planes and they don't get hit by planes. So this is a red-tailed hawk right here. And this is a great horned owl. He's really cool, huh? I love him.
He is cool.
And they hiss like cats, and they make all kinds of weird noises. They're very spooky, yeah. So I not only protect animals, but I protect people, because if a plane collides with an animal, not only is it really bad for that animal, but it's very dangerous for the plane and for the people on board the plane. So my job is to protect people while also protecting animals. So I chase a lot of animals off of the airfield, and we do a lot of studies and research and a lot of other things to try to figure out how to keep the animals off the airfield completely so that both people and animals can stay safe. We also collaborate with a lot of other scientists in the area who study hawks and coyotes too, so that we can, like I said, figure out what their behavior is, why they're coming to the airport, and how to keep them away from the airport.
So have you figured out why they're going there? Doesn't seem like a very hospitable
Loaded
place for them.
question. There's a lot of different attractants, there's a lot of different variables. A lot of it's weather conditions and the time of year, season, but a lot of it's also, there's things that are on an airport that attract wildlife, like water, like tall vegetation, perching spots, trees, things like that. So our job is to kind of figure out what's bringing the animals in, how to keep them out. And we also, the reason I am holding these guys is because we will capture the hawks and the owls, and we'll put big metal bands around their legs, just like the smaller birds I mentioned earlier, and we will release them in a new spot hundreds of miles away so that they don't come back to the airport. But we can still track their movements after they're released and figure out what they're doing and where they're going. So when I was trying to figure out what to do for a career, I only thought that wildlife biologists and animal doctors were the only two jobs in which you could work with animals. So if you want to work with animals, there's so many more types of jobs you can have that you might not know about. You can be a zookeeper in zoos and aquariums. If you don't want to work with animals as much and you want to still help the environment, you can build energy for the country, like solar panels, windmills, clean energy. If you want to help sick animals get back to the wild and get healthy again, you can do rehabilitation. And essentially, you're still an animal doctor. You're kind of a vet still, but you're rescuing animals from the wild animals, and you're nursing them back to health, and then you're releasing them back into the wild. Yeah. Rehabilitation. So essentially, it's a long word, very long word. The core of it is rehab. So rehab essentially means to heal. You're healing the animals, you're saving hurt, sick, injured animals, and you're healing them, and you're releasing them back to the wild. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys like put like little things on ducks?
On ducks?
Ducks.
Ducks. So lots of people do. Lots of people ban ducks the same way that we banded the hawks. I personally have not done that, but that exists. Yeah, people will ban ducks as well so that they can track how the ducks move. Yeah.
Do people ban swans?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's all kinds of, pretty much any species of bird can be banded, and there's all different kinds of sizes of bands to use for different sizes of birds. So something like a swan, that's really, really big is going to use a really big band because they have really big legs. Something like a dove or a blackbird is going to have a tiny, tiny, tiny little band because they have tiny, tiny little chicken legs. All right, so we're going to move on. But another thing, you know, if you wanted to be a lawyer, if you wanted to be a politician, you can write environmental law that affects how people like me do our jobs. You can be a park ranger in a national park, the people that greet people, say hi, protect people in the wilderness and in national parks. And you can be a teacher, and you can teach other people how to care for the environment and care for animals and work with the public. So there's so many different areas of the job that you can work in. It all depends on who you are, what fits your type of personality best, and what you're most interested in. And these are just more of the decisions you can make. If you want to work outside, like I said, in the field, in nature, in the outdoors, or do you want to work in a lab? Do you want to work in an office? Do you want to do lab science-y things? I was less into that aspect of it, so I mostly stayed outside. But these are just some of the things to consider. There's so many different species, so many different groups and types of animals to work with, and so many different environments to do it in, ecosystems to do it in. We're ready for the skulls.
Yeah, well, I know because the time is
We'll just show
changing.
pictures, but yeah, you can start.
Yeah.
These are just
How
one
much
pictures.
this is.
So this is a deer skull. And this is a baby deer, a very young one, because it's got very little antlers and very small teeth. But it's very cool. Well, I just found this. I found this skull after the deer died in the grass, and because it's so young, it could have
took the bone out of it.
took the what?
The bone out of the head.
He wants to know how is it a bone and not.
Where's the rest of the
The
head?
rest of his head.
Oh, yeah. So when something dies, anything that isn't, this is bone. It's hard, it's calcium, it does not decompose. And decomposing essentially means disappearing. When something dies, everything that thing is made of, skin, meat, except for the bones, it disappears. The bones on every dead organism will stay there. Bones do not decompose, and that's how fossils are made. And that's why we're able to see dinosaur bones, because it's been thousands of years and they never disappear. So everything else on the deer disappeared, but the skulls and the bones stay there. Yeah.
Do those fossils have diseases?
So the animals definitely can carry diseases, and that's why we never want to
Whoa.
interact with animals without gloves. But the bones themselves cannot carry diseases. The bones are completely inorganic, so it's
It
just
looks
a
like
hard
a
surface.
horn.
Yeah. So this, good job.
Do next slide, maybe.
Yeah, we can move on to different
Okay,
pictures.
so there you go.
Yeah, so this, yeah, thanks for that. So these are adult bison. So they can grow between 500 and 1,000 pounds as adults. They get taller than me usually, about as tall as I am. Just absolutely massive, bigger than most of your parents' cars. And this is a bison horn. So they, that kind of gives you the idea of like how big a bison would be. This is a massive horn. And after the bison dies, this is hollow. This is only the outer covering of their horns. So when the bison dies, after a while, these will just come off. They'll just fall off.
They
on
look
their own.
like semi-horns.
Yeah, they're huge, right?
They look like instruments.
Everyone can look in there.
It looks like an instrument.
Do the next slide.
Yeah, it's like a,
It does.
yeah.
It looks like
There's the horns at the. Have you guys seen the Vikings blowing into the horns?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what that is.
There's a baby deer.
And this is our last skull.
A
So,
bird.
does anyone know what animal this would be?
A bird.
So this, I'm glad it's not a bird. That'd be terrifying. This is a javelina skull. A javelina is related to boars and pigs. So this is essentially a wild boar, a wild pig, and they live in Arizona and South America. But they have very big fangs. These are big tusks that come out, and they're very pointy, and they're very dangerous, and they're very aggressive predators. Javelinas are pretty spooky.
That looks weird.
Yeah, it's a pretty funky skull. That's definitely my favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then these are just more pictures. This is a prairie dog, and it looks like he's dancing and singing. He's actually he's alarming the rest of his family because there's danger nearby. When the prairie dogs see danger, they will jump on their back legs and scream into the air to alert everyone around them that there's danger nearby. And then this is adult and baby deer. Yeah, more birds. Yeah. So this is a red-tailed hawk, and this is a red-tailed hawk, hence the red tail. And this is a burrowing owl, and burrowing owls are the smallest species of owl in North America. They're about this big. Yeah.
I thought that little red horn was
An elephant. It's big enough to be. It kind of looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
small.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Is that called the last skull?
Was it the last skull? Yes.
Oh yeah. It's just
So
those
you guys can
ones.
take a picture with her.
Yeah.
This for you
Yeah,
guys.
we'll take a
You
picture.
get any more questions too?
The bison.
Take a closer look at it.
Yeah, unfortunately I don't have a bison skull. I actually do, but it's kind of stinky and gross, so I didn't bring it.
She's working on getting it.
Yeah, all the skulls when you find a skull. Yeah. It's very fragile, so yeah, we
You
don't
guys can
let
let
any.
Well, there's cracks there.
Yeah, there's all kinds of cracks. Do you see this real squiggly cracks? This is where all of the parts of the skull.
Wait, stay seated. Stay seated.
So there's all these little squiggly cracks. Yeah. This is where the different parts of the skull, they all fuse together.
That's the eyeball skull.
Yeah. These are where the eyeballs go, and then the back is where the spinal cord attaches to the skull.
Oh wow.
You guys want to take a picture?
Yes.
We'll have her go in the middle.